Ladies and gentlemen, we're floating in space.
This is your captain speaking. Intros are boring.
Sugar Rush.
Last time I remember Deko, Nina and Taku Inoi getting together on a song, the world got Sweet Appetite and I got a splitting headache. So it's encouraging to see that the boys can play together nicely on this little Me Comet number. From Taku we get those groovy rhythms and artsy melodic detours, and Deko brings some of his swaggering rockstar guitar flourishes in a way that actually fits together pretty well. They make for a good team, just like the vocal duo. Sakura Miko and... what's her face? I think she's the bassist? Doesn't matter. Whatever you want to call them, this was just one of the most fun, straightforward pop songs we got this year. Like, it's just a good jam. Put it on your toast.
The next song is The Ghost of Words is Looking Through the Window.
A duet on the opposite side of the emotional spectrum was this Frog 96 cover by Niji Sanji, Yuika and Mito, a stuttering slice of ghostly glitch pop that almost reminds me of that one Everything But the Girl album everyone likes. The original track was written based on the Japanese word game Shiritori, in which the last syllable of one line is used to start the next, making the track feel like this kind of haunted nursery rhyme. It's a weirdly specific vibe, but hey, I'm also a weirdly specific vibe. Don't knock it till you try it.
The next song is Bibi Diba.
Question: what would happen if you put all of SUISEI songs in a blender? Answer:
The next song is Fuka Kuryoku.
Regloss just fit together so well, man. These days, I like them more for their covers than the originals, but I will see if they make any headway on that. This Vaundy cover does get out the broom on that rough, sandy shuffle from the original to go for something a little more clean and polished, but I don't mind. You know, it's okay. I'm just saying. Didn't mean anything by it. You're fine, girls.
The next song is So Ten ni Muyu.
Yay, it actually got released. Nice one. Not sure what the hold-up was, unless Cover Corp was sending the vocal takes by carrier pigeon with a USB, but whatever. Crony's second original song is here now, and I really like it. I like it for a bunch of the usual nerdy music criticky reasons, great guitar lick, awesome chorus, but sometimes, you know, it's not that deep. Crony is my personal favourite streamer in Hollow EN, and hearing her put her whole guts into this song and stick the landing, I don't know. Call me a biased fanboy, but that just makes me really happy. I don't need it to be more than that.
The next song is Femme Fatale.
Aw, right back at you, sweetheart.
The next song is Dead Mam's Chest.
Okay, where to start with this one? So Marine put out a song a few years back called I'm Your Treasure Box, in collaboration with wacky dubstep man Camellia and Yuzi Inu, at time rumoured to be a pseudonym of Undertale creator Toby Fox. Treasure Box is a bit of a polarising song, understandably, considering the lyrics are absolutely down cataclysmic, even for Marine standards. Plus they got a Tickle Me Elmo doll to sing the chorus, but it was also insanely popular. So when you hear that the gang got back together with a new track with the title Dead Mam's Chest, it sets a certain expectation, maybe an expectation that involves tits. But then you actually hear the song and realise that Marine just delivered the sort of emotional gut punch that practically no one was expecting. Dead Mam's Chest is a blazing theatrical slice of power metal wrestling with guilt, anxiety, imposter syndrome, and the feeling of being crushed under the weight of fortune, success, and influence that you can barely convince yourself you even deserve. Especially when you've seen how many will never make it to anywhere near your position, drown beneath the waves before they even get a real chance. And somehow, through all of that, the song manages to reach a genuinely optimistic climax about living for the future that feels completely earned. It's insanely impressive writing. I've long been frustrated with how a section of EN fans are happy to just write off Marine as lazy, horny bait, because this level of complexity and vulnerability in her art has been there for years, at least as far back as Unison. I do want to stress though, even outside of the themes, the song is just excellent. I love Camellia's theatrical lyricism, but also how the production manages to be simultaneously bright, chunky and colourful. There's also so many callbacks to Treasure Box. It's all really great stuff. And I'm gonna be honest, it's also maybe the best song Toby Fox has ever written, and you can quote me on that. This right here is something special. Please don't miss it.
The next song is I Am All of Me.
Absolutely rips. Best part of this song is the part where you realise that it was never ironic. Shadow the Hedgehog always went this hard. Ruse is simply unearthing what was always true. He was always strong enough to be all of him. It was you who wasn't prepared to be all of you, buddy.
The next song is Yellow Big Header.
Yeah, Peanuts Kun is his real name. No, him being here is not a joke. I wish it was a joke. No one is more upset that this is good than I am. There was a moment, right? A blinding moment of unparalleled, dawning horror when I realised that I was no longer ironically listening to the fucking Singing Peanut album. After a certain number of repeats, it's not ironic anymore, cowboy. You have to live with the fact that you actually like this stuff. Without exaggeration, Bloodbag Brain Bomb probably has the best instrumentals of any VTuber album for 2024, and I just hate that so much. Liminal Shit, Squeeze, Bokatachi ni Earth Wanai, Birthday Party, Yellow Big Header. It's this blend of trap, drum and bass, drill, pop punk, hyperpop, emo, and pretty much every other terminally online sound that TikTok likes. It's just so catchy. Now, none of this is a defense of the artistic merits of Peanut himself. I honestly don't care what level of irony this guy thinks he's operating on. You are still a cartoon peanut in overalls that writes lyrics about trying to murder Thomas the Tank Engine. Yes, really. And my man still raps like he tried snorting an edible and has half the thing still stuck up his nose. Although with this much auto-tune, he may as well be legally classified as a cyborg. As a complete aside, I mentioned that Birthday Party song earlier, which is a duet with Sakino Mito, which is, I'm 99% sure it's about losing your virginity, which, thanks for that mental image. The song has a phenomenal beat, amazing breathy vocals from Mito. Peanut ruins it per usual, but I did want to just mention that there's a bit where he compares himself and Mito to Hannibal Lecter and Clarice from Silence of the Lambs. Again, mental image. Oh, Christ. Please, for the love of every deity known to man, can we get Nerd Witch to produce for someone else? Please, I'll take anyone. I'll take the Tony the Tiger VTuber. I'll take the Twitch CEO VTuber over this.
The next song is Tide.
I was in Melbourne earlier this year for the first time to see the HoloLive DreamHack show. It was only for a couple days, get in, get out. I was only really there to go to DreamHack, but opportunity presented to look around a little. Not like I've spent much time in bigger cities anyway, or at least a city that felt big to me. A few days earlier, Moria dropped her new single called Tide, so it was in pretty heavy rotation while I was walking around the Melbourne CBD, along with Lupe Fiasco, Soul Scream, Frank Turner. Lyrically, Tide was a retread of some of her older material about living for the future and taking things as they come, but distinctly different. A little smarter this time, a little more self-aware, a little more genuine. She sounded like these days she actually believed it. That chorus was also fantastic. Sure, it had the fairly standard millennial whoops that often get a pop song sneered at for being behind the times, but I feel like it owned that. It was grand and sincere by design. The gospel touch is a musical metaphor for the transcendence of stretching out past your limits to reach something that feels impossible. It was happy, bright, unashamedly optimistic, not out of naivete, but a quiet confidence and faith in yourself, your ability to take the punches and keep standing up. I liked Melbourne. I liked this song. And I'll always remember that.
The next song is TenNatu, Natsu.
90% because of the video, which, to be fair, was one of the most gut-busting things I saw all year. There are just so many jokes packed into it that it honestly takes a couple spins just to catch them all. How these three managed to even get clearance on a video like this where they show their real faces while sinking a few cold ones at the beach and getting the hookah out, it just boggles my mind. I'm assuming a few managers probably got their arms twisted or families kidnapped. Whatever outrageous leverage it took to get a mainstream corpo to agree to this level of audacious shitposting that almost manages to wrap around as an earnest celebration of reggae and Jamaican culture was in my mind 100% worth it and morally upstanding. Truly an example of shenanigans as high art.
The next song is Sakayume.
Yeah, it came out last year, but I realised that after I put it in the edit, and it does sound absolutely gorgeous, so it can stay. This is Pretty Privilege in action. I'm not always super wild about a cappella covers, but man oh man is this just stunning. It's so gentle and warm, the vocal layers like those first rays of sunlight peeking through the blinds. Oh, the key change near the end makes me want to recreate that floating shack gif.
The next song is It's Not a Phase.
I know for most ears this will just be by the numbers emo power pop, but if you know the context, this will be chugging on those heartstrings like Tom DeLonge. Such a sweet, tongue-in-cheek tribute to being a dorky, lame teenager who turned into a dorky, lame adult, and just a pitch-perfect swan song for Sarah's Fauna. Christ, is she going to be missed.
The next song is Moonwalk.
Alright, yeah, also came out last year, video came out this year. No one else has heard of this one, so I might as well just squeeze it in. If you like Bjork or Kikuo, or just generally dark, freaky music made by weirdos, you need to go smoke some Ichimatsu Suzuka. Moonwalk starts off as a fairly unassuming little lo-fi waltz before just blasting off into the stratosphere at the 1 minute mark with what I can only describe as kind of like a bass drop. Yeah, this is a waltz song that has a glitched out bass drop in it. Oh, Mozart's supposed to be so fucking good, but he never thought of that. Even with the strange structure and very warbly singing, I honestly do find this song to be legitimately mesmerizing, mind-bending, and just insanely creative overall. For better or worse, there is nothing like this in VTubing. Go give it a try, although fair warning, you might not ever get the aux cord back.
The next song is Wander.
This is just really sweet. It's also unintentionally kind of hilarious, given that this is a cute jangle pop jam about how fun and exciting it is to go outside, intended for VTuber fans. Points for trying, I suppose, and hell, maybe this song does hit different if you listen to it sitting under a really big tree. There's a challenge to all you intrepid explorers out there. Go listen to Wander by Noel under a big tree or on a nice patch of grass and report back to me if you feel more childlike and whimsical. All the trees around my place are kind of wimpy and the grass has like a 40% chance of drawing blood, so I'm counting on you here. Go get 'em.
The next song is Die 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 Fantasista.
A staple of VTuber music is the classic "I'm so grateful I made it" song. Even saw one earlier in this video with that Salome track. This was Miko's stab at it, and I thought it was pretty... look, it wasn't quite elite, but I thought it was pretty cool, right? Nothing wrong with pretty cool. Although, if you do want to talk about elite, you're going to be talking about those alto saxophone licks. Yeah, that's the stuff. If anything does make this one stand out above some other tracks on a similar subject of celebrating and appreciating your own rise and newfound success, it is all those bells and whistles, like the acoustic guitar and trombone on the bridge that help ramp up into that one big final slam of the chorus. It's just a big, colourful blowout of a song. It's got horns, it's got heart, the only thing that's missing is you. Go check it out.
The next song is Proxima.
A metal cover of a Patton song makes a weird amount of sense now that I think about it. Correction, not a metal cover, a space rock cover. Yeah, that's a great name for a genre, isn't it? Space rock. Why can't all genre names be that straightforward? Space rock? Anyway, if any Patton's track could have used a good shot of distortion in the arm to wake up a bit, Proxima would have been a good candidate, and I think that Unit Zero and Zephy over here do a pretty tidy job. There's a really nice swell towards the back end that blasts off for this one big final chorus. It's good. I don't have heaps to say about it. I think I just needed the excuse to say space rock a few times and make sure people know it exists. They made rock music in space.
The next song is Rescue.
A lot of her more sincere material gets kind of overlooked by the more casual fans, but real Numi stans, her fans are called, what is it? Noombas? It's Noombas, right? Yeah, got it. Okay. Anyway, as I was saying, real Numi sisters will be able to tell you that the joke songs, they're not the full picture of Miss Nimone's many musical skills, and the girl has got a bit of emotional range to her stuff. I get that a lot of people are going to see a song title like Hey Nya and close their Spotify tab fast enough to avoid most of the psychic damage, but Numi's got an ear for a good chorus, and that's helped her drop some legitimate gems if you go for a dig. Nostalgic Sunshine, Neptune, pretty much every song off Hard to Think. That album is low-key, like, really good. And especially Pizza in the Cosmos, which I would actually consider a genre classic. Together with her collaborator Holmes, she's pumped out a lot of music this year, and I was most partial to the most recent release at time of recording, that being Summer in the Dark. The big appeal for Numi's music is almost entirely in that very personal and very lo-fi indie production vibe. Very few music makers in this scene try to capture the appeal of someone just hanging out with a buddy and making songs that sound cool to them in their bedroom with whatever instruments or microphones they have lying around. The seams are pretty obvious. The limitations in the budget and production are easy to see, but that makes Holmes and Numi's ambitions to write and record literally whatever they like and strive for excellence regardless all the more impressive. And the fact of the matter is that with songs like Rescue here, that dedication and that effort is starting to produce the results that leapfrog most of her corpo competition. This is borderline radio ready, but without ever sacrificing her underrated knack for personal introspection and a sticky hook. Good on you, Numi.
The next song is Cult Following.
Still not super keen on the Wargasm production job for this one. The groove is way too stiff, the mixing is muddy, and it feels a bit too stripped back overall for its own good. Maybe a slightly lesser entry on the list, but I keep coming back to Cult Following for the lyrics. It really feels like a representative of the improvements Callie has made as a writer. Much like Tide, this is a rerun of a concept she covered back on her 2020 musical Car Wreck Cinderella, this time calling back to Nozumi Scheme and the thin lines between celebrity, pop culture idol, and cult leader. Both of these songs play pretty fast and loose with irony, but the key difference is that underneath the surface of Nozumi Scheme is a bottomless chasm of nihilistic insecurity and defensive self-hatred, whereas Cult Following is, and this might sound a bit weird, but it's kind of a romantic song. This is still very much about brainwashing her followers, ruling them with an iron fist, going all in on the totalitarian imagery, etc., but there's an underlying emotional warmth in the framing this time. It's ultimately an unlikely song about belonging, finding your people, expressing yourself openly and just riding with the consequences because that kind of freedom is worth it. Maury doesn't hide away from the possibility that her fanbase is kind of just a cult, that being a content creator is just a dictatorship with a different name, and that some of the most disparaging things that people say about her on that front, they might even be true. Nozumi Scheme was terrified of this idea, to the point of almost cringe-inducing self-flagellation. Cult Following has the emotional honesty and maturity to just kind of own it. The outsiders were never going to understand anyway, so why not just go all in? Enjoy the romanticism of being the misunderstood outcasts who at least have each other. Soak in the highs of that fanatic fervour. Lean into the melodramatic seduction of the cult. I mean, that brand of communal resonance has been at the heart of the appeal of idol music for decades at this point. It's not as radical a notion as you might think. People tend to forget that when she started out, Maury Calliope was pretty different to how she is now. The character was intended as a rejection of a lot of Hololive's idol expectations and branding. Push back on everything about the space she saw as corporate, insincere, misogynistic, and fake. Her tough girl posturing was always kind of a pose, but it was something she saw as necessary to differentiate herself within the scene and find a niche that felt more comfortable and natural than the plastic smiles and glittery love songs. But as time went on, her growing power and presence within the industry started building that pressure for Callie to conform, to fit herself into the box that made the fans happy and the company more money, even if those new labels compromised her happiness in the process. The reason her new project Phantomine resonated so much with many fans is that this was the album about finding the space to accept her mess, acknowledging the fact that she would never neatly fit into any of those boxes. She's not your average idol, but she's not an anti-idol either. Maury is Maury, along with all the fantastic and frustrating human complexity that entails for both her and for the audience. Cult Following is a love letter to the fans that accept her messy contradictions, and it's a resolution to spray the wall and cut against the grain as long as she can. This isn't going to work for everyone. Hell, it's probably only going to work for those who are already securely captured in the Maury cult already. But if you can lock into the right groove, one man's congregation is another man's mosh pit.
The next song is In Love with an Anime Girl.
Not done with Numi just yet. Despite myself, I did have to put a silly one in, and this was the one that kept getting stuck in my head. Mainly, I just appreciate the opportunity to be able to listen to something that sounds like a Wet Leg song without having to grind my teeth through Wet Leg lyrics. In Love with an Anime Girl is cringe, but it's upfront about it. Like, obviously the song is tongue-in-cheek, but I feel like there might be a bit of truth behind it, somehow. It's making fun of Numi, obviously, but it's also probably a good-natured roast of a lot of her fans as well, who also spend too much time and money on a certain anime girl. Of course, whether intended or not, listening to music this shamelessly dorky is going to turn some folks away at the door. But don't worry, Numi. I thought it was funny. You take no notice of those other mean people. Whoa. Damn. That's the warm-up stuff, but everyone knows you can't be a real proper award show for grown-ups without some fucking categories, so let's cap things off with the cream of the crop, the very best. Starting out with...
Best vocal performance.
Might get a few funny looks for this pick, so let me go off on one for a sec. I see a lot of discussion around VTuber singers get focused on the technicalities. You know, if you measure everything up, the range, breath control, vocal timbre, you can pretty much get it down to a formula who the best is. This type of approach generally sends a few names consistently up to the top. Hoshimachi Suisei, Ayanda Risu, Millie Parfait, Nerissa Ravencroft, Enna Alouette, Elizabeth Rose Bloodflame, or Rokarorin and unnamed if you want to go outside the major corpos. Each are vocalists who can safely be considered extremely skilled by conventional standards. They can hit the notes flawlessly, create almost transcendent moments of beauty with just a few layers, elevate the material by just adding their voice to the mix. And they're all pretty fantastic, no argument here. But the notion that these are the canon best vocalists VTubing has to offer, that's never sat right with me. I mean, there's the obvious point that if I was feeling exceedingly nitpicky, I could find blemishes on performances from pretty much everyone listed. Apart from Enna, Enna might literally just be perfect. But that's all nerdy pedant talk. That doesn't really matter to anyone outside of the comment section of Rate Your Music. Much more importantly, I remember an old interview with legendary jazz pervert Frank Zappa, where he said this.
Do you consider yourself a great guitarist?
Well, I'm specialized. What I do on the guitar has very little to do with what other people do on the guitar.
Specialized. There are actually many ways to be a great singer, so specialized is a good word to keep in mind. It's ultimately the word that brought me back around to poker. I'm sure you've all heard this Creepy Nuts track already. It was a colossal hit, and it's been played to death. It's a slice of that very Japanese style of internet rap that puts more emphasis on out-of-the-box delivery and exaggerated vocal tics than anything else. Little did I realise that this was going to be a match made in heaven for someone like Poker. Girl has always had a serviceable singing voice, but her deeper register and penchant for hyperbolic vocal antics has always given her the edge for a more theatrical delivery. See her original song Persona for that. Throw her in with a track that practically requires her to keep stretching that vocal range for every strange voice and weird inflection she can credibly land, and the resulting cover is just 3 straight minutes of fireworks. It's simultaneously way more weird and off the wall than the original, while somehow also being punchier and much more of an earworm. With pure delivery, Poker manages to find new hooks hidden within the song, making parts that weren't even intended to be catchy. It's so tightly locked into the pocket, but also feels so loose and fun. She manages to match that same kind of vocal stim energy that people have praised about some of Kendrick Lamar's more mainstream material.
Asian brother, pop off only on occasion, brother.
And what wraps it all together is this absolutely fearless intensity and confidence that comes through in the performance. When you're throwing so much at the wall vocally and just hoping something sticks, it's understandable to be a bit self-conscious or try and take the edge off the cringe, but Poker just barges straight through. She sells it so hard, you just have to respect it. No joke, it's actually got me to reconsider the way I listen to rap music, and on that alone, it absolutely has to be my favourite vocal performance for the year. Hopefully this is not the last thing we hear from Poker in this lane, doubly so if she can get some more production with this level of bass-heavy knock. And before you start curling, Mr. Monkey Paw, do not make it fake type.
The award for Best Original Group Song Non-Classical goes to JK Gummy, Never Glow Up.
I never grow up, you never grow up.
Oh, another Mito song. Daring today, aren't we, sir? Security. Yeah, right over there. Second row. Yep, that's them. Yeah, whole family. No witnesses, please. Perfect, thank you. Sorry about that. Look, secret law of the universe has always been that group songs are kind of, sort of, a little bit not always that great. Like, they can be a bit of fun, but even the best of them are essentially like a 3-minute unskippable ad to go and watch something else. You got multiple people, you gotta try and communicate their personalities in a 3-minute song. It's just generally easier to make something fairly simple and generic to cover all the bases, so the tendency is towards something kind of mediocre. But that's only if you take the path of least resistance, instead of the path of personality, staying power, and maybe a little bit more resistance, but it's worth it to make peak. Enter JK Gummy, stage left. The trio of Sakina Mito, Higuchi Kaide, and Shizuka Rin from Niji-sanji's very first wave. Must have debuted back on black and white TV. These knuckleheads dropped a monstrosity of a group song this year that made pretty much every other group track a complete afterthought to me. If you didn't notice, the title over here, Never Glow Up, right? It's actually a quadruple entendre. This is some Kenny behavior. Number 1, Never Glow Up. Never going to suddenly become trendy or in fashion or whatever. Number 2, Never Glow Up, as in never going to get more popular, which sounds similar to the first thing, but excuse you, it is actually slightly different. Number 3, Glow Up sounds like grow up, and the characters literally never grow up because they stay the same age in the lore, which is kind of weird, but don't think about it too hard. And finally, number 4, they never grow up because they're women in their late 20s to early 30s who are still paying rent by goofing off as anime characters on the internet. Such is life, I guess. This is a bit of an ode to VTubing's old fogies, who should probably be at a point where they're too mature to be doing silly voices and playing Minecraft for a living, but in reality, who are we kidding? These Muppets are nowhere near mature enough to drop doing silly voices for a living. And as much as that's a pretty self-deprecating admission, the song is just so relentlessly bouncy and fun and completely off the wall that it starts to feel like, you know, maybe you don't have to grow up or get more mass appeal or more polish or more serious to just make really cool stuff. It's as much a statement of sincere intent as it is complete self-parody. If you can find a decent translation of the lyrics, I do highly recommend taking a look. I've had to settle for machine translations that give a good general gist, but even that much has been hilarious. They have this whole erroneous philosophical argument on the first verse about the true definition of being together forever. Because infinity is actually a concept, not a number, so how can you actually be together for infinity? That doesn't make any sense. There's a random hardcore punk breakdown segment, even a bit where the Wi-Fi gets choppy and they have to turn the song off and on again. How do you even come up with that? It's so deeply informed by the girls' personalities and the things they find funny. Never Glow Up is the kind of bizarre, good-natured self-deprecation that Niji-sanji seem to really thrive at, still more than anyone else on the scene. Hololive can do self-aware, they can do camp, but they won't make fun of themselves to this degree. And in a year where Anycolor didn't exactly cover themselves in glory as a company, it was nice to have that consistent reminder that the creative side of Niji-sanji still has a hell of a lot to offer. For what it's worth, this was probably my most played VTuber song for the whole year. Also extra points for that Say So Bitch hoodie, iconic slay, etc.
Best song cover. Unknown Mother Goose by the Hoshimatic Project.
VTubing owes a great many things to Vocaloid, not least of which is Vocaloid's flourishing culture of covers and remixing. The fact that a lot of Vocaloid producers, regardless of popularity, will openly share instrumental mixes of their tracks has made space for a whole host of amateur vocalists to cut their teeth, hone their skills, and get some degree of traction and notoriety. It's produced a lot of fantastic artists and even launched international careers. honestly mirrors a lot of the appeal of Vocaloid and VTubing as a whole, both mediums which grew out of various strains of musical and otaku subcultures combined with new technological achievements to birth a fresh wave of up-and-coming creatives fluent in this brand new medium. Granted, a medium that remained fairly pulpy, niche, and insular, always attracting a side-eye from the mainstream audience and the critical set, but one that could leverage that lack of oversight and traditional boundaries to make types of art that could have otherwise never existed. Enter WOAH, a Vocaloid pioneer responsible for some of the scene's most groundbreaking and enduring music, especially his 2011 post-hardcore contribution, Unhappy Refrain. It remains a pretty standout record even now, despite tech limitations of the time, WOAH's own personal demons, and the scuff mixing job. The blistering intensity of Unhappy Refrain makes this one an emotional powerhouse, even for folks with limited interest in Hatsune Miku. Of course, many who know the story will be aware of WOAH's final Vocaloid song in 2017, Unknown Mother Goose. After many years away from the scene, making new connections and forging his own path with the band Hitori, this song looked to his humble beginnings and took stock of what got him to where he was. Namely, the silly pulpy genre of singing robot voices that helped him fall in love with songwriting, helped him find an audience who wanted to hear what he had to say. 2 years later, he would suffer a fatal heart failure in his sleep. He was 31 years old. That left Unknown Mother Goose as not just his final contribution to Vocaloid, but a final love letter to that community and its influence. Needless to say, despite how popular this track is, there is a degree of reticence to cover it and deal with the weight of that context and expectation. To cover this song poorly would be seen at best as disrespectful to a masterpiece, and at worst, actively malicious grave robbery of a legend. None of that even mentioning that Unknown Mother Goose was one of WOAH's most winding and complicated tracks in a career filled with them. One of his biggest influences was math rock after all. So, it was brave. Characteristically brave for someone like SUISEI to set the members of her idol training program, the Hoshimatic Project, the task of singing this as their first collective release. Hey everyone, welcome to Vocal Lessons 101. Today we'll be starting with Bohemian Rhapsody. It's difficult to even think of a more intimidating place to start, but the fact that this ended up in this slot tells you what the results were. It is effectively note perfect. I mean, just because I advocate for a broader definition of what counts as good singing, doesn't mean that getting the equivalent of a Guitar Hero 5-star on a song this imposing isn't a staggering achievement of practice and technical chops. To switch between so many different singers and have it avoid feeling gimmicky, that's impressive, but to have it actually add to the thematic weight of the song by tracing how each of these girls have similarly found their voice and start in a pulpy otaku medium, which regardless of its dorky presentation has allowed them to foster real connections, real skills, and experiences they will always treasure, that's the true jaw dropper. More than most covers I hear from VTubers, you can hear the very deep reverence and respect for the original in this. It's not a replacement or a remix. It's a work in deep conversation with WOAH's track and the broader culture that birthed it. One of the highest streamed covers Hololive dropped this year for good reason. This is something special. Ah yeah, and of course, finally, the best original song of the year. Overkill. Yeah, not exactly a shocker. Mori's taken home gold from me 2 years running at this rate, and frankly, if she keeps up this standard of lyricism, she's going to end up with a pretty fearsome trophy cabinet. For better or worse, no piece of art better captured VTubing in 2024 as perfectly as this one did for me. I don't want to wallow too much, but 2024 was a year awash with historic agency collapses, controversy, scandals, infighting, high-profile graduations, and a general miasma of bitterness and toxicity that never fully dissipated. I said earlier that any colour weren't in my good books this year, but to be blunt, that was the case for a lot of corpos who, towards the end of the year especially, seemed like almost intent on racing each other to the bottom. For a lot of fans, not just me, It was a year they wanted to put into the rear view as soon as possible. But in my case, I found one of the touchstones to get me through a lot of the rough stuff was Overkill. Callie's 2.5-minute metalcore excoriation of the entertainment industry, corporate interest, overbearing stands, and anyone who would co-opt the dreams and happiness of her and her friends for their own cheap gratification. This is a song raging against dehumanization, being reduced to your numbers, your product, your output, your clout by people who see you and everything you have worked towards as their investment. The exact same people who will treat your needs, desires, or general humanity as frustrating distractions from your true purpose, which is making them more money and clout, no matter how much they run your physical and mental well-being into the ground. And the kicker, as Callie points out, is that they still hold all the cards. They reap the spoils of your successes when you win. They push you to the side and find the better bet when you lose. So long as more people hold on to dreams to chase, you, as an individual, are disposable. Of course, Overkill doesn't hold much for people like this, outside of searing hatred and a baseball bat to the skull. Perhaps the best summary is in the final lines, which translate as, "It's your fucking fault. Take responsibility. In a flash of light, it'll be so beautiful." Yeah, we're talking low-tier god metal. And after the year that we've had, it's simply satisfying to see someone who has reached almost as high as this industry can take them, but is still willing to call out the cynical smoke and mirrors for what they are. Someone who is willing to do the actual work to make that system better for the people around her, set the precedents and pathways to make things easier on her friends and colleagues, and tell the people who need to hear it to fuck off. It may not magically fix everything, but it does feel good to just hear someone say it. However, I shouldn't be giving away awards based on how much a song agrees with all of my personal opinions, no matter how tempting it is. So, fortunate for me that Overkill is a face-melting barn burner of a metal track to boot. The production is courtesy of Yuki Sugimura and Meg of Baby Metal fame, and they made this thing a 2-ton slab of concrete. If any critique could be levelled at the song, it's going to be too loud, crushing and bricked out with compression for some folks. The lack of dynamics is potentially a bit distracting, but it can equally be argued that the relentless ferocity is what makes this track land like such a jaw-breaking right hook. For 2 minutes 40, it does not let up for a second. A pummeling onslaught of scorching riffs, soaring group vocals, and righteous fury that puts the focus where it should be, supporting the people who make the things we love, and telling everyone else to kick rocks. It is for better, for worse, for everything. The best song I heard out of VTubing in 2024. And I hope to God for a better 2025. Oh, and there we go. Bunch of songs you can try at your leisure. Scrolling past will be even more music from 2024 that I liked. That wasn't VTuber related. I do listen to that stuff on occasion. Appreciate all you folks who managed to get through all the yapping. However, some of you might still be unsatisfied with the amount of my opinions that you have access to. That's why I'm happy to point you over to Marshmallow. I have one of those now. I don't really know how it works, but it's a desperate attempt to make me a little bit more sociable. Feel free to drop by and ask about my favourite colour, nuanced opinion on current sensitive geopolitical issue, what my dog's name is, whatever you like. Don't stress, I'm more scared of you than you are of me. By quite a lot, you people are really scary. As a final aside, I would like to offer my sincere apologies to the Hololive lesbian community for my failure to acknowledge Narissa Ravencroft's Good Luck Babe or Elizabeth Rose's Blackbird cover. I know some sins cannot be atoned for, and so I will accept my retribution. All that I ask is when the Sapphic assassins catch up to me, the end is quick and painless. I don't know, I just personally wish you had done a different Chapel song, although if it had been casual, especially with that chorus, I think a few of you would have actually died. As for videos, I will return when they finally kill Banjo Patterson. How's that? Camp now.